right, let's get rocking and rolling. So everybody, my name is Zach Eichenberger, Director of Marketing for Control Products Systems Group. I keep forgetting, I've got a slight role change, Director of Product and Services, pretty much the same thing. But welcome to another educational opportunity brought to you by CPSGU and Nedap, part of our manufacturer series of webinars. We're shooting for an hour today. Because of the size of the session, it's always best if we can mute your mic, so keep those muted. Looks like we've got some good etiquette today, but feel free to utilize the chat feature at the bottom of your screen to ask questions. I'll monitor those questions and feed those back to Mike and Curtis as appropriate. And I would say if you think that your question is a little bit more dynamic, as we get to the end of each section of each product group, feel free to unmute and ask those more dynamic questions. We'll make sure to get all of those answers for you. We'll follow up the session as we always do with a link to the recorded notes, the recorded webinar, additional documentation, how to get some CEU credits, contact information for both Nedap and our RFID team. So it's great to have Mike and Curtis back again with Nedap. We've enjoyed some great success in our partnership. It's really growing. They've got a very well-rounded lineup of vehicle identification products, including LPR, license plate recognition. I feel like they've made me a believer in LPR. Previously, I wasn't so sure. So definitely consider Nedap on your next RFID AVI project. Our RFID team in Plano, led by Chris Peterson and Butch Showers, they're on this call today. That whole team is a valuable resource for you. If you ever have a question about RFID team, we have the A team, if you will, when it comes to all things RFID. So we'll provide that contact information after the webinar today. We're really lucky to have that resource at our fingertips. When I say they're really the best in the nation, they really are. Even manufacturers occasionally will call them for advice to understand the market and the needs. So with any solution, there's a wide sea of products to navigate, and the RFID team and Nedap is that consultative group for you. So I'd like to introduce Mike and Curtis. Gentlemen, thank you so much for organizing and presenting today.
Thanks, Zach. It's a pleasure to be here. And Butch and Chris, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate our partnership with Control Products. And we're looking forward to being able to share our product line with you. And now you guys are going to record it, so now people can go back and see our ugly mugs down the road. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again. Excited to kind of dive into some of these details on the Nedap long-range premium RFID products. And we've got a good presentation for you guys here, and at Nedap here, as well as Tucson. This is Curtis Dennis, who will be part of your presentation team today. I am head of sales operations and key accounts for North America, and then we also have Mike Bennett here.
Yeah, and I'm the sales specialist, field sales specialist, and channel development specialist for North America. So just glad to be here and ready to get into some Nedap. So without further ado, just to give you a little historical background about Nedap, because sometimes as I travel all over the country and all over the continent, I'll interact with folks that are like, "Me who?" Well, Nedap has been around for 90 years. Nedap is a global manufacturer based out of the Netherlands. So they're a European manufacturer. And Nedap's actually a household name all over the world. And so hopefully as time goes on, I feel like our biggest obstacle when it comes to Nedap is awareness. And so opportunities like this are opportunities to bring more awareness to what Nedap is and what Nedap has to offer. Because once we overcome that limitation of awareness, the rest is history. And so you'll also notice that there are some other divisions that exist. When it comes to RFID, Nedap has been doing RFID for about 30 years. So Nedap is not a here today, gone tomorrow entity. They are tried and true, and they are still cutting edge when it comes to innovation and technology. This here is an illustration of the ecosystem of our product line. And it's not overwhelming. It's actually relatively simple. Before we even speak to the product line, there's one additional historical detail that I want to share with you about Nedap, and that's last year's sales. So we went through COVID, people had challenges. We managed to not be in the negative, but we were in the positive. But last year, we were 20% over our stretch goal. 20% over our stretch goal. Everybody has goals. We all understand that. Last year, we were 20% over. Why? Well, it's not because I'm awesome at sales and Curtis is awesome at strategic accounts. It's because there's a demand for our product and our product has relevance. Yeah. There are three contributing factors to why we were successful last year. The first contributing factor, when we talk about RFID, vehicle identification, and long range, contributing factor number one is that this is a touchless solution, and touchless is relevant this day and age. And so that was one contributor. Number two, Nedap's been around for 90 years. This stuff works. And so that's another contributing factor. And the third contributing factor is that when we deal with access control anymore, it no longer starts at the door. It now starts at the gate. And that's where our product comes in. And so those three factors were contributed to our success last year, this year, and the years to come. Yeah. And so that is just something that we want to make sure that folks are aware of. And hopefully that's been your experience as well.
Yeah, and I could add one more factor for this year is our products are in stock. So that's a win.
Good point. Good point. So with that being said, if you look at the upper left-hand corner of the screen, this is our uPASS line. And the uPASS line is our most cost-effective solution, okay? It works great for a lot of applications, right? The top and the bottom on the left-hand side would be comparable to many folks are familiar with AWID, and AWID would be one of our key competitors. If I was to make a comparison between ours and AWID, our product and AWID, I would say they're both good, but AWID would be kind of like a Kia, Nedap would be like a BMW, but the price would be about the same. Which product would folks typically want to go with? Well, a lot of times folks want to go with the more premium product. And I would say, I might be biased, but I would say that is our uPASS line. And the uPASS line, as I said, is the most cost-effective solution. It works great for many applications, but it is not a one-size-fits-all solution. So therefore, we don't just stop with that 900 megahertz passive technology. And the upper right-hand corner, we have the transit line. And the transit line was created for more specifically high security applications, industrial applications, and luxury applications. And so the transit line is currently being used by Homeland Security, Air Force, Navy. Last year, we had a monster PO for Con Edison, which is one of the largest utilities in the United States of America in New York. First quarter of this year, we had a monster PO with Pico Energy, which is a utility in Pennsylvania. And so that's the industrial application. And then there's the luxury application. And to give you an example of a luxury application that uses our product, it's also the largest application in the world. It happens to be in Canada, in Toronto, called the Eaton Center. And it's a retail luxury residential facility. Over 200 readers and over 60,000 window buttons. That's our transit line. It is an enterprise solution, and it is very good to be aware of that technology. It's an active technology. Lastly, lower right-hand corner, probably our most exciting and newest product that we have to offer. It's called the Lumo. And the Lumo is an LPR created for access control. What do I mean by that? I mean, it has a Wiegand output. So what that means is it can actually take the characters of the plate, convert those characters into Wiegand, and send it to the backend system. This product is a smart camera. So the software is actually embedded in the camera, and there are no annual fees, licensing, or renewals. So the fact that it is a box buy and it has a Wiegand output, is really, really exciting to the end user because why? Because the plate is the credential and everybody already has one. No need for stickers, no need for window buttons. It's just a matter of entering in data. I don't want to kill all of the details to this product, but the other exciting detail about the Lumo is that because it's a smart camera and the software is embedded in the camera, it can actually stand alone as its own access control device. All you need is power and an output to the gate. You download the plates onto the whitelist, and when it sees the plate, it opens the gate all by itself. So it has the capability of standing alone as well as tying into the backend system. When we look at our readers as a whole, all of our readers are capable of reading tags at speeds up to 100 miles an hour. I know it's overkill, but Nedap, when they produce something, they overproduce it. Just in case you have a free flow application and you need to catch a credential at that speed, including the LPR. Also, another detail about our ecosystem is that all of our products are OSDP compatible, which means that if an end user has the desire for OSDP or is contemplating it, our product with a simple firmware upgrade will afford OSDP compatibility. And so that is the ecosystem in a nutshell. And that's what we're going to get into a little bit more into detail. Curtis, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I love the presentation of the ecosystem here. What I like, guys, is and gals out there, I like the fact that our product scales well into different sizes of projects, but also different functional needs that your end user might have. So don't think of these items as just a door opener or a gate opener. Okay, it goes beyond that because we do that well, and we provide flow and mobility onto the property. However, we also have, when you get into logistics, when you get into forklifts, when you get into moving assets within a perimeter, we can also do that too. So that really helps on providing more application and meeting the needs for your end users. And for your integrators, it provides them even wider spread of opportunities.
Looks like there was one question that was asked, and it said, how many credentials can it hold? And I'm assuming that that's pertaining to the Lumo. The Lumo has 4 lists. It has a white list, it has a black list, it has an ignore list, and it has a Wiegand match list. Each list can hold 100,000 plates. So in totality, it can hold up to 400,000 plates, which is clearly probably above and beyond what would ever be needed. But again, the Dutch overproduce things. So that means you're getting better than what you're paying for, more than probably what you need. And I'd rather have more than what I need than less than what I need whenever I'm dealing with a product. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about each product line separately and then field questions as we go. So the first product that we're going to speak to is our transit line, which is our active technology. It's a 2.45 gigahertz with a 2.45 gigahertz frequency. The transit line, again, was created for high security applications. Homeland Security uses it. Industrial applications. Con Edison uses it. Luxury applications. Anywhere where you have luxury vehicles, Teslas, Mercedes, BMWs, Jaguars, Range Rovers, you name it. This is the product line that's going to work best in those types of applications. And let's talk about it. Why? Well, one reason is because this is an active technology. Active technology means that the credentials are battery operated and are capable of sending a signal and communicating with the reader. And so the difference between active and passive is passive technology. Basically, the reader does all the work. It sends the signal, bounces off the antenna, and goes back to the reader. Active technology, however, the credential sending a signal, the reader sending a signal, and it acts as a handshake instead of a reflection. That's why Homeland Security uses it. That's why these industrial applications use it, because why? It works very well in environments that are harsh with harsh conditions, whether it be weather or whether it be just dust and everything else.
Yeah, we do a lot of mining facilities, a lot of quarries,
Petrochemical.
It's built like a tank, this product.
So Chevron uses it, and Valero uses it, and other applications like that as well. So you'll notice it's a robust, reliable, secure. It's an enhanced user experience. We have tags for every situation. You'll notice at the bottom on the left-hand side, that's the window button. That is the most commonly used credential that is used with this technology. It looks like a hockey puck and it has a suction cup that goes underneath it. And so all you do is you stick it right up on the inside of the windshield by the rear view mirror. And now that is going to project that signal and work seamlessly with the reader. It's a 33-foot reader technology, and that can be squelched down to less than that. Okay, so we've got the window button. We also have the compact tag, which is a clamshell tag that is easily used if you don't want to put anything on the vehicle, or if you have a golf cart, you could use that. On the far right-hand side is the heavy-duty tag, and that is ATEX rated. So it's explosion resistant, it's water resistant, it's perfect for mining applications, petrochemical applications, all kinds of applications. And as Curtis had mentioned earlier, it can be used even for asset tracking. And what he means by that is, let's say you have a stockyard full of expensive equipment. Well, sometimes that equipment comes up missing. Well, if we place these tags on those pieces of equipment, and now we know when that piece of equipment is leaving and when it's coming back through the gate. And so that is a drop in the bucket to avoid missing out on a $500,000 piece of equipment, right? Even those crates.
Yeah. So this tag is metal mountable. So as Mike was referring to, you have a corrugated shipping container. It was designed to go right in that corrugation of that metal. So anything from a port, if you're bringing in corrugated shipping, containers, to bulldozers, ditch diggers. We have a lot of power utility companies that have substations around town. Mm-hmm. They want to find out where their equipment is and at which substation. You can slap that tag right on the metal of that vehicle, and then you get to track that.
Which takes us to, when you talk about substations, that takes us to that credential in the middle. Kind of looks like a garage door opener. That is a very unique product. There's nothing else on the market like it. It is a Prox booster. So what do I mean? You take your Prox card, you stick it in there, you push the button, and it boosts your Prox credential 33 feet to the reader to say, that's Zach, gate open. Now, when I talked about Con Edison and Pico Energy, which were both, monstrous POs, that is the credential that they got. They got the Prox booster. Why? Well, when you're going through a gate and you have a window button, that window button is assigned to a person, but that window button is transferable. Well, your ID is not commonly transferable. It is on you at all times. And they want to know specifically, not only that these people have authorization, but who is it specifically that is coming through my substation at that particular moment in time for auditing and for accountability, etc. And so they bought these boosters that boost that credential 33 feet. And not only does it boost the credential, which could be Prox, we also have a smart card booster. So it has that capability of a smart card boosting the smart card technology, but the booster itself has its own identifier. So now, not only do they know who's coming through, but that booster can be associated with truck number 4, squad car 13, forklift number 1, semi 26. So now you know the driver and the vehicle. It's a dual ID, has a dual ID functionality, which is not your everyday solution, but it can absolutely be that ace in the hole for certain applications. And that is why it's good to be aware that it exists and it falls within Nedap.
Yeah, everybody's looking for more data these days. So that's another data point for tracking and maintaining your fleet or your assets that are rolling. So that dual credential, dual ID, you're getting 2 Wiegand signals to your backend system. One is the card information, one is the booster ID. So it shows up on your event log and your access control system. And so you can track those assets and who is driving them. The booster is the only tag within this product line that has replaceable batteries. They're just replaceable AAAs. All the other tags that are up here are non-replaceable batteries, but you'll see an estimated 7 to 10 year battery life. So usually the battery life is not a concern on these tags.
That's a long time before you have to replace the credential. And as I mentioned earlier, this is used for luxury applications because when you have a Tesla, a Mercedes, a BMW, a Jaguar, a Range Rover, those vehicles have a metallized content in their windshield that commonly blocks RFID. So if you have a passive technology that is simply relying on the reflection of the antenna and going back to the reader, you will not be able to use that passive technology on the inside of those luxury vehicles. However, with our window button, because it's battery operated and projecting a signal, it can push through that metallized content so that way it can communicate with the reader and have that handshake. And now you don't have to put any ornaments on the outside of the vehicle in order for it to function within that higher end application. So those are the details pertaining to our transit line. And I see there's a couple questions or comments, so let's take a look. All right.
Okay, so the booster, what bit format can it handle? So basically anything that the card has programmed in it, it can send it up to 128 bits of information. So normally we can 26, corporate 1000, 35-bit, 37-bit. On the smart card booster, it can do MyFare, it can do sector read information, it can do Legic. So there's a lot of options. Glad to share some additional technical information about that later on as well.
And then there was a couple questions about the Lumo, and I guess no, Nedap tags are not going to be going to function with the Lumo. It's simply for plates, but you could always have a Nedap reader, UHF reader on top, so now you can get the tags and the plates. And in terms of needing two, one for the rear and one for the front, no, absolutely not. All you need is one because the plate is the same on the front and the back. So therefore, if front plates are required for that state, then you can face it towards the front. There are states that do not require it. And so therefore, but everyone is required to have a back plate. So therefore, it would need to be placed to hit the back plate and then it would work.
Yeah.
Obviously, LPR is not something new to the industry and it's being used. And so ours would be used in a very similar fashion, with the exception that it is used for access control, not just CCTV and video analytics and stuff like that. So great questions. But as for our transit line, my hope is that you understand we don't have a one-size-fits-all solution, but the transit line definitely, if I was to give it a grade and grade the transit line compared to our UHF line or our passive technology, I would say that our transit line is an A+. I would say our uPASS line is an A. And so basically the transit line is for those applications that you need that extra. A Homeland Security, a Valero, a Con Edison, those applications where this passive technology just doesn't quite do the trick. Or if you're in Canada and you've got these harsh weather conditions, or northern New York, you've got these harsh weather conditions, that is where the transit line exceeds expectation and really performs optimally no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to jump to the uPASS product line right now. And so we're going to do a bit of a shift. So this product line was specifically designed for parking and convenience access, as we've kind of named it here. So the tags that go with this product line are all passive. So there's no battery in any of these tags. It's designed so that it's a lower cost tag to help people get into access control for their vehicle management. And so this was designed specifically for the parking industry. We do a lot of universities, we do a lot of parking garages, We do a lot of corporate access. Typically, if you have a customer that has a lot of vehicles, hundreds to thousands of vehicles, the price point for the tag will be right in this product line. And as you can see, we actually have 3 different readers within this product line. Each of them has a different read range. On the far right, we have our Target, uPASS Target, 33-foot read range. That's your maximum. Then we have our mid-range uPASS Reach Reader. You'll get 16 feet, up to 16 feet out of that one. And then our smallest one, a 6-foot door reader or mullion mount out in the lane as well. And so we've got some different options as far as the read range and the readers. All of those read ranges are adjustable, and we'll get into the details here on this next page. So similar to the transit line, the orientation of your tags, where those are going in the vehicle, are very similar. Okay. All of our technology is a line of sight, we need a direct line of sight between the tag and the reader. And so it's pretty straightforward on the application here. So this is our cost-effective solution. It still enhances the user experience, but we still have a variety of tags for different needs. So our most common popular tag is just that sticker tag there on the left-hand side below the blue Jeep. We put that up behind the rear view mirror is the best location for that, because a lot of times vehicle manufacturers will put a void in the UV layer of the car. So they do that because that's normally where they put the garage door communicator as well. So that's a golden spot for any aftermarket RFID products, right behind the rear view mirror. Sometimes they'll put a dotted vinyl pattern there too. Actually, put that sticker right in there. And if you're testing, or if you have different vehicles where you want to know the best spot to put that in, a lot of times you can just take a piece of temporary tape, don't apply the sticker permanently yet, and you can move it around until you find that sweet spot. But that's the most common one.
Well, I was going to say, and as we mentioned about the Teslas, the Mercedes, the BMWs, the Jaguars, the Range Rovers, there is no good spot to put that tag within those types of vehicles, because that metallized content is all throughout. And so therefore that tag is not going to work. So if anybody is looking to do a luxury application, please keep in mind that you don't want to go with the windshield tag as the solution, because you'll probably get 50 to 75% of your end users are going to call and say, hey, this isn't working. Well, it's because of the windshield. It's not because our product doesn't work. We just need to understand that metal blocks. So how do we overcome that limitation with this particular technology? Well, if you look on the right-hand side, that is called our external tag. It's our headlight tag, and you'll notice that there's an arrow pointing to the headlight. Well, if that goes on the headlight, now we have bypassed the metallized content in the windshield and still can use this cost-effective solution for that type of a high-end application. And so just know that, and even if you go with the windshield tag, because most of the vehicles are domestic and they don't have as much of that issue, you're always probably going to get your one-off Tesla, Mercedes, BMW, Jaguar, Range Rover. So it'd be beneficial to have at least one bundle of external tags, so that way when those vehicles do come about, that they can get that credential, and you're gonna avoid the friction of, hey, this isn't working, this stuff doesn't work. Well, that's not true. That's not really true. It's making sure that it's integrated properly in order for it to work. And that's why we want to get the information to you to support your success and eliminate as much friction as possible. And so that's our external tag that can go on the headlight or any non-metallized surface.
Yeah. So that's an external sticker tag. Like Mike said, you can put it on plastic as long as it's not metallic. It can go on the outside. I've seen it go installed on golf carts before. So anything, as long as you've got a good line of sight there and the tag is facing the reader as the vehicle is approaching, that's good. We also have, just to the left of that, is our heavy duty external tag. So it's a hardened plastic tag that can go on the outside. That's also good for motorcycles or golf carts, or if you were doing forklift applications as well, but we prefer that the transit line be used for that. But that's another option in your arsenal for an external tag, and that can be strapped on or adhered to the vehicle behind the grille. As long as you don't have metal between that tag and the reader, you're going to get a good read out of that. And then next to that, to the right of the sticker tag down there is a card. That is our combi card in a lot of cases, but it's our UHF credential. And so you can use this long range card with any of our readers. So depending on which reader you're using, you're going to get a different read range and maximize that range on that card. So that's just a card form factor that we offer people. And with our combi card that I mentioned earlier, you can get this card with dual technology. So you can have 2 antenna inlays inside this. You can have your Nedap long range UHF antenna in the card, as well as, let's say, HID Prox, iClass, MyFair, or Legic. So there can be 2 card technologies in that. And a lot of times that helps people transition. If they have legacy readers throughout their building of another manufacturer, you can still use that card on those. But let's say they want long-range Nedap at some of their doors. That's the perfect card for them, and it helps them kind of step into the world of Nedap and long-range readers.
Yeah. Well, and then that takes us to our access reader, which is the 6-foot reader. And I think that this is pretty unique because this is our entry level long range RFID. So let's just say somebody's really on a tight budget and would love to have long range, but just says, I don't think we can cut that in our budget. Well, guess what? This 6-foot reader for perimeter access is an option, because if you imagine, typically as you're driving up to a gated community or whatnot, you'll have that gooseneck that's there that you have to hit with your prox, or you have to touch the buttons. Well, how about that instead of having to drive up, open your window, let out your AC, touch something, and possibly make yourself susceptible to the person in the bushes, you can drive up and this will be on there. It's a 6-foot reader, so therefore all you have to do is present your card. You don't have to open your window. It's being read, and now the gate is opening and you're driving through. I know most people would prefer being driving up and from 33 feet away, recognizing the credential on the windshield and driving through. But you know what? There are budgets that don't necessarily afford that. So this can still get you that type of an experience at a much lesser of a cost. And so that is one of the ways in which this can be used. But anymore, this product is actually being used for building access. Why? Well, it's a 6-foot reader, which falls within social distancing, for one. For two, it's touchless. So you can walk up to the credential, have your card on the lanyard. It's recognizing the credential and the doors are opening without having to touch anything. So let's talk about the applications where this might be relevant. How about a hospital where they're germ phobic, right? How about where you're just letting the doctors and the nurses through, but nobody else should be able to have access? Or how about if you're pushing a gurney and instead of stopping, locking the gurney, walking over to the reader, tapping it, and then going back and pushing, there's a credential on the gurney. So as you're pushing it, the doors are opening and you're going through. So hospitals this would be very relevant. Secondly, food manufacturing plants that are trying to keep everything sterile. This could be a great option for building access so that the employees can get in and out without having to touch stuff and spread germs. The third possible application would be for those entities that just want to be proactive and they just want to look out for the betterment of their constituency, like municipalities and universities, right? As well as anything handicap accessibility. You put a credential on the wheelchair. Now, as the person is approaching, the doors are opening and they're able to go through. So there are so many different possibilities that go beyond perimeter access that sometimes involve our products. And this is one that I would especially highlight. And so I think we've got a couple of questions. Zach, do you want to mention, or do you want me to just pull them up?
Yeah, I can jump in here. Oh, let me scroll back up here. Do you have a list of vehicles which need external tags? I assume this is speaking to the metal Veridium that we're finding in those windshields.
Yeah, I can address that. We don't specifically. There are some toll road authorities across the country that will publish those, but it is quite extensive and detailed. So it is a laborious process every year to update that and find out all the products that do have that. On some, I will mention on some of the BMW, Mercedes, European car manufacturers, since RFID is so prevalent in Europe, a lot of times in the owner's manual, it will specifically have a section that points out areas in the windshield that are RFID friendly, if you will. And usually if you look at the windshield, there's a color tint change in a couple of different areas on the windshield that you can see from the outside on a sunny day. And you can tell where those areas are. But we don't publish lists like that. Sometimes you can find them on the internet from Texas, Kansas, California, different toll road authorities that will list those best places for RFID or the ones that do not work.
Hey, Curtis, this is Chris Peterson. If I could jump in on this also. So basically, all of the toll authorities will reference metallic windshield issues on their websites. It's such a moving target over the course of so many years and so many vehicle changes. And so, yeah, a lot of the RFID manufacturers have said there's no way in heck I'm going to try to keep up with these. So he's right. Yeah. The best resource is to go look at some of the toll authorities. But I also want to caution, you got to be careful because people can go look at that and it can be misleading. Like all BMW 700 series cars have it. That's not true at all. It's an option. Any of these cars, it's an option. There's a few ones that we see. You can bank on a Tesla. You can pretty much count on Range Rovers having an issue, but you could line up 100 Mercedes S-Class vehicles, look identical, and 10 of them might have it.
Yeah.
20 of them might have it. So it's a little bit of a moving target, but I just want to add some little more clarification to that because the biggest things we see is people think, okay, every Mercedes S-Class has it. No, that's not true at all. Or the other one we see is this car is not on that list, so it doesn't have it. This dude could have an aftermarket situation. So percentage wise, it's relatively small, but of course, if you're the guy that has that one Mercedes S-Class, the percentage is 100%. So
yeah,
got to be careful with that.
Or a Tesla or a Range Rover, like you said. I mean, that's pretty much kind of a guarantee, right?
On those for sure.
That's a good addition to that. I also saw a question on there about the access reader and the shape of the read lobe. It's actually a 180-degree lobe. So it's not just a cone shape. So it's a really wide read lobe on that one. However, I will mention that the card itself needs to be facing that reader like, think of the reader as a flashlight and the card is like a mirror. So you never want to get the skinny side of the card facing the reader. It's not going to reflect that energy. So even though it has a 180-degree read lobe, the card still needs to move around that read lobe facing it if you want to get maximum read range. Now, obviously, if the card's at an angle, like a 45-degree or angle or something like that, it's still going to read, but you need to be just a few inches or feet closer to the reader to initiate and engage the reader.
And then also keep in mind that credential does need to be exposed. You don't want to have it in your wallet or in your purse or in your pocket, because this is in line of sight, and it's not like your Crocs where you can do the butt bump and the door opens. It does need to be exposed. Also, keep in mind it's up to 6 feet. It's not set that's the only option. You can squelch that down to 6 inches if you'd like, whatever works best for the application. So there's definitely some flexibility with this reader.
Yeah, look, very good questions. Based on our time that I see right now, we should probably hop to the Lumo. Then we'll finish up with some additional questions. So this is the.
Go ahead.
One comment on the windshield issue. Is it a best practice to, if you're quoting a brand new job, maybe it's a gated community or whatnot, to include some of those external tags in that initial bid, just to so they understand that is going to be something that they're going to be dealing with, and they're not coming back to you and saying, wait a minute, that $10 tag's now $30. What's going on here?
Right. No, that's absolutely right. That's a great best practice, and that's something that we promote around here. And normally we say, let's say 5% of your total tag production population, if you will. So depends on the size of the application, but as long as the end user has options and you say, this is, a reality, but we have options for you to work around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really most important thing is the communication for them to be aware, because the last thing you want is for somebody or a handful of people to say it doesn't work, and now all of a sudden the whole system's getting ripped out because a couple people are having issues, when the reality is if they would be aware that their particular vehicle just has metallized content, so therefore it's not going to work, and you go with an external tag, now you know that the product actually does work. Our product actually works very, very well. And we've created resources to help support the success of the integrator as well as the end user, because our objective is to eliminate friction. So just know that. And the last thing that I'll say to your question, Zach, is that if there's an application that has 50% high-end vehicle or 75% or whatever, or 25%, you can go with all external tags. So therefore you don't have to wonder which one does it work for and which one doesn't it work for. You can go with all external tags, and now you've avoided that issue completely. So those are some different possibilities to consider when you're dealing with these applications and needing a solution. I see there's a couple more that are popping up. Anything that would be good to speak to before we pop over to the Lumo?
I think they're more reinforcement comments. Did we get to John's question? I may have missed it in the
Which
uPASS.
one was that?
In the uPASS, you can change to transit using iTerminal. And you can send codes to adjust read rate and relay output. Sounds like John's got some experience with the product. Is there a cheat sheet for those commands?
I can send you some. We don't have an official published one, but we have an internal thing that we have. But yeah, we'd be glad to. I'll connect you with John Atkins, and he can send you those cheat sheet commands, because that's handy.
Okay. Yeah. There's some really neat, when we get into the software of the product, maybe at some point we can do a technical training and speak to the software, because we can actually do masking of other manufacturers' tags. So in a takeover, you can use our readers, get rid of their readers, and then a mask can be created for those existing tags. And then moving forward, you buy Nedap tags. So there are some really neat. And then also with this product, you can go Nedap only, because obviously people have tags for car washes, university parking, whatever. And that creates a lot of noise, because the reader is picking up everything, every Gen 2 tag that comes through. Well, you can program our readers to Nedap only, so it's only going to recognize the Nedap tags. So that is another feature that our products are capable of. That's always a good thing to know about. And again, we'd love to do maybe a technical training with a live demo of the Lumo at some point, maybe down the road in the future.
And I think that's actually a default out of the box, as they only read Lumo tags. You got to go do some stuff if you want to add filters to do other things.
Yeah. Out of the box, it definitely doesn't have a mask capability. It would be a software adjustment in order to do that. Yep.
Very good. All right, let's jump into the Lumo. Very exciting. So if you're wanting to upgrade your access system, like we're saying here, if you want a visitor management addition, if you've got RFID in place already, but you want a visual of the lane and JPEG captured images of people coming in, or if you're transitioning, or if you just want 2 levels of access and you can control your visitor management with this device and then retain your RFID system in tandem, you can do that. So let's dive in to this next page. So the ANPR Lumo, it's an LPR all-in-one unit. So what do we mean by all-in-one? Well, Mike went over this kind of at the beginning of the presentation. The CPU processor, the storage, the infrared light, you can see those lights all the way around the lens there. We chose a good lens that covers a good width and depth of perception. We wanted to pack everything that you would need into one device that's about the size of a loaf of bread here. So it's all self-contained. You don't need any external servers. You don't need an external computer connected to this thing. It's its own computer. It's its own camera. It's its own AI processor. Everything's built in. You just plug it in and upload the plates and it starts working. So if you want to use this in an access control standalone environment, it can control the gate directly. So all you have to do is have a list of your users, the list of the plates, upload that to the device, and then set typical access rights. Do they have access Monday through Friday? Do they have access only on weekends? Just like your normal management software, all of that is web browser based. So the camera itself has an IP address. If it's networkable, you log into the camera. There's different login rights and user rights that you can set at different levels. And you can go, as fancy as you want with that. So it's a simple user interface, easy to manage. You could have a front desk attendant if you're a gated property or have somebody at a multi-tenant building. Easy for them to use, easy for them to log into the software. If you need to make adjustments by the hour, by the day, or by the month, you can go in the software, edit the plates for access. The read range, 6.5 to 33 feet. Again, reads up to 80 miles an hour. It can read even faster if you have external trigger devices. So it's good for free flow. We've all already mentioned the visitor management capabilities. No servers, no recurring fees. The software is included. It's all a box buy. The custom Wiegand output, this is really neat. So let's say you're not going to use this as a standalone or an edge device, and you want to connect it to your enterprise access control system that's already on site. That's not a problem. The camera can read any sequence of letters and numbers, translate that internally, and output any ID that you want that plate associated with. So the reason that it can do that is because a normal sequence of letters and numbers is too long for a standard Wiegand signal. So your Wiegand 26 or even a 37-bit message is too long when you translate that. So the camera does the heavy lifting, and let's say that Zach has already an access control prox card in the system, and your ID number is 500. Now you can go into the camera, you can assign his license plate and tell the camera to output ID 500 every time it reads your plate. So it matches the data that's already on the access control system so that the handhold is easier and the assimilation is easier. I'm sure we'll get some questions about that later. And then also it has a full open REST API. So if you want to integrate this at the next level to where it's seamless with your access control system, we can do that. It's an open API. We're glad to share it. Some integrations have already occurred. I believe on the Secure system, they have done that. There's a few of our other integrators that have integrated this seamlessly to their access system platform, and more are adding that monthly and daily.
So a couple of things that were mentioned, we might have been glazed over, but this can be networked. So how do you download the plates onto the reader? Well, if it's networked to the internet, we have one 5 miles from our office. We download plates from our office. We check plates from our office. So it's something that can be done remotely if it's networked. If it is not networked, you're going to have to take your laptop and with Ethernet, connect to it, and then download it manually in that regard. Now with that RESTful API, then you can ultimately, because it has that, now it can be pushed to the others, and it makes it very convenient in terms of a large number for a particular application. The other thing that is not necessarily mentioned on here, but it has a hard drive. It will store up to 10,000 hours of JPEG imagery which means that now you can go back into the archives to find out who came through on the 4th of July between 5 and 6 o'clock. And so the way this camera works, it is not CCTV. It does JPEG imagery. It captures images and then it stores those images. And so that's why the software is able to be embedded in the camera. And that's why you don't need any additional, hard drives and things like that necessarily in order for it to do what it does. And so that's why it can definitely be a standalone box buy. There's nothing else other than power and an output to the gate. So really, really, really special. And there's tons of applications where this would be relevant. I like to talk about the use cases for this product because I usually come up with, there's about 4 that I will point out and like to highlight. The first use case for this product is very simple. You have a gated community, and instead of having your RFID, you have this in place of it. All you do is download the plates onto the whitelist, and now these people have access. If they have guests that are coming, well, they can be added. So obviously it can be used as a primary. Some people might have a question, how accurate is it? How well does it work? Well, it's a 33-foot reader catching plates at speeds up to 100 miles an hour. And we had it tested, an integrator on the East Coast tested it for a month, 400 cars a day. After their test, they came back to us with no reason to lie and said it worked 100%. We proceeded to order 8 of them. So we're not going to say it works at 100%, but we will say that it works at or above industry standard, which is 95%. So that's a pretty good percentage in terms of functionality and accuracy. So use case 1 is as a primary. Use case number 2 could be used as a secondary. And what I mean by that is, let's just say you have a luxury high rise with $5 million condos. Dr. Smith's trying to get to his condo he just bought, but for whatever reason, the primary fails. Let's just say whatever. It's not Nedap, it's somebody else, but it fails. Well, nobody wants to get that phone call from Dr. Smith, right? He just bought a $5 million condo that he can't get to. Well, if this is a secondary to say, oh, that's Dr. Smith's plate gate open, boy, that is a drop in the bucket to avoid that phone call from Dr. Smith. And so it can be used as a secondary. The third and probably most popular use case for the Lumo is visitor management. If Grandma Susie wants to come visit you for 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 months, instead of giving her a credential and say, hey, make sure I get that back from you before you go home, all you have to do is put her plate in, and now she has access for that duration of time. And it's not only gated communities and residential areas that have visitors. It's hospitals, it's universities, it's municipalities, it's utilities, it's hotels, it's resorts. All of these places have visitors, and visitor management can be a logistical nightmare, and the Lumo can be the aspirin for that headache. And then the fourth use case for the Lumo would be for analytics and auditing. It has a hard drive. It's going to store up to 10,000 hours of JPEG imagery. So if you want to know who's coming in, who's going out, what's the high time, what's the frequency, you can get all of that information from the Lumo. If you just want to find out who came through on the 12th at 12 o'clock, you can get that information. And so this product can be used for one or all of those purposes. It has that versatility and flexibility. So that is the Lumo in a nutshell. Zach, what do you got for us?
Yeah, great presentation there. There was a question, what degree of angle and distance do you need for the Lumo? I think we addressed both of those, but just wanted to point that out. 25 degrees is the angle. That's a good question, John. P ever asked, they had a bad experience with LPR. They were able to trick it by putting a picture up there or probably a Word document of a license plate number. I think you addressed that in terms of it's taking an image, looking for an image, a JPEG per se. Is any other comments to avoid that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this camera the plate has to be reflective. So you can't just print a piece of paper and duplicate an ID number off of that. So there's some reflective nature to that. And then we also say this is not necessarily sold for high security.
That's right.
We've got other options for a high security application. This is more for visitor management, convenience, access. It still offers some levels of security, but I wouldn't say our highest levels.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the antennas, the Gen 2 antennas can be cloned as well. So, I mean, there's ways, but when you're talking about our transit line, those cannot be cloned. So if you want high security, go with the transit, right? uPASS would be second, and then the Lumo would be third on that list. But really good question. Of course, yeah, that's definitely can be a concern and an issue.
Just to make sure, for my edification, you don't need an image of the plate. You just need the letters and numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you import the database to the software?
Absolutely. Yep. Just a CSV file brings it right in, and then you can edit it in the software once you've imported it.
Great message about the audit trail as well. Sometimes people just want to know what vehicle came through, and maybe they had, you know, a security shop there, and they were allowing guests in and whatnot, but they want to capture that license plate later because they caught that person speeding or something like that. And then go back to that audit trail and utilize that for some additional data. Will John asked, will the Lumo software work on any browser, or do you need a tool like UHF tool?
No, it'll work on any browser. Yeah, so you can use Chrome, Explorer. Yeah, and it's a web-based environment.
If the tag needs to be, or the plate needs to be reflective, how do you handle tags like Vermont, which doesn't have reflective tags? We haven't run across that as an issue yet. So that would be, we wouldn't be able to read them if they're not reflective. Some portion of that plate needs to be reflective, I would assume.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the camera black and white or color? And does it need a loop trigger?
It's black and white. You do not need a loop trigger. Good questions.
Yeah, really good questions. And we would love to, at some point in the future, do a live demo of the Lumo, and then maybe speak a little bit about the software of our UHF and transit line, because I think that it sounds like from the questions, that might be something that would definitely help to answer and illustrate it more thoroughly to create that full picture.
If you have any videos already pre-recorded that I can add to the post-webinar notes, I'll collect those from you guys and include those links in the follow-up.
Okay. Yeah, the last detail, I guess, there's two things that are super important before we sign off. What are lead times of our product, right? That's everyone's question. And I know that there's a lot of manufacturers where it could be 8 months, let alone 12 weeks. Well, our product is 3 to 5 days for 95% of our product. We have a warehouse in Chicago, and our product is going to be available to you within 3 to 5 days, with the exception of the target reader is 4 weeks. The boosters that we were talking about, Prox Booster and Smart Card Booster, that's about 4 months. And that's it. Everything else, 3 to 5 days, unless you have a special order where you have a custom tag that you need to be created with a specific bit structure, number sequence, or facility code. That's going to take 3 to 5 weeks because it gets manufactured overseas and then shipped over. So that's a detail that's super important to know. If you have questions or comments or needs, we're a phone call away or an email away. Other than that, I think it's super. Our hope is that through this training, the understanding and recognition is that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution. But between our transit line, our uPASS line, and our Lumo, Nedap can be an absolute one-stop shop for any long-range application. And so we really appreciate the time to be able to spend with you. There were a few other slides, but I think you guys get the hang of it. We've got, different applications that are preferred for each product line that we have on there. We have a little technical detail on the power supply, the grounding, and the positioning of the tags, which is 90% of why we get tech calls. We have that on there, but we could probably cover that maybe if we get another opportunity or if we create something so you can put it in your library.
Yeah, very good. Mike and Curtis, great presentation. You guys are pros. Appreciate you guys taking the time as well to educate us. I will follow up with a post-webinar note probably by end of day tomorrow for everybody with that recording. I'm going to include, John, I see your note there about some technical information on the Lumo. We'll include some links and to documentation there for you, as well as contact information for Mike, Curtis, our RFID team down in Texas. And appreciate everybody jumping on. This is an evolving field. You guys have come a long ways. Super excited about the Lumo and the future of LPR and trying to find its place in the marketplace. So very much appreciated. Chris, anything else to add before we sign off?
Well, I'd just like to also say thank you, the guys, for doing the presentation, taking the time, but also you mentioned lead time issues. I'll also add to that, we stock readers, several different flavors of the readers. So you ever get a critical situation, we can usually ship same day, literally, out of our Plano branch. And even we stock some of the tags. So a lot of times we can even, if you have flexibility in how you tags a program, we can a lot of times ship tags same days. Because occasionally customers will say we're out of tags and need some today. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, but thank you guys again for taking the time. Good, great presentation. We appreciate that.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
All right, we'll see you.
Thank you, guys.